The Yankees find a way to win the series against the Texas Rangers, and they finish the homestand 4-2, beating the Mariners 2 out of 3, and now beating the Texas Rangers 2 out of 3. This is the 7th time this season where the Yankees lose the opener, but come back and win the series. So they find a way, and news on Aaron Judge has gotten worse. My expectations were never great to begin with. I honestly, I think I'd said it, if not last episode, a couple episodes ago, don't expect him back really in like maybe the end of July, early August. Now I think we can maybe push that back even a little bit. It sounds as if Judge said he tore a ligament in his toe, and he still has pain when he's walking. So just an update there. It does not sound as if Judge will be back really anytime soon. I think if he comes back in August, that's a win, honestly. Like, if you tell me, like, Judge is back by, let's say, mid-August, I'll take that as a win. I do think he'll come back. I do think he'll be back this season. But look, like, there is a world in which that exists where he will not return. Like, we have to sort of brace ourselves for that. I do think he'll come back, but how will the effectiveness be? And the offense has been really, really bad without him. And it basically was in this series, but they found a way, thanks to Billy McKinney, namely in game 2, because we'll talk about, the games they won. It was him with a solo homer and a 1-0 win. And then in game 3, a couple of big innings and a few big hits. And the big one was Harrison Bader getting a 2-run double in the bottom of the 8th. But the pitching, specifically the bullpen, was excellent in shutting down like the hottest hitting team in baseball in the Texas Rangers. So that was the big thing. And the Yankee pitching this year has done a really nice job. And that includes, the rotation hasn't really been very good. And it's interesting, in this series, Garrett Cole, he struggled in this rubber game. Only goes 4 2/3, only allowed 3 runs. So that's the good thing, is that this thing could have really gone off the rails, but it didn't. The Yankees were down 3-0 and fought their way back. So you got to be happy about that. They kind of stuck with it. And Carlos Rodon he'll be back soon. I think expect to see Carlos Rodon, hopefully for that Baltimore series. So coming up, you got at Oakland and at St. Louis. And on paper, those are matchups that are winnable. But look, Oakland at one point was a house of horrors for the Yankees. Things are different now, but we've seen Oakland, they won a series versus the Rays. They won a series versus the Braves. So they can step up. Yankees did sweep them at Yankee Stadium early in the season. And then you got St. Louis, who when you look at that team name-wise, there's that lineup still looks good, but they have struggled a lot. But still, on the one hand, you like what you see there this coming week. On the other hand, don't be surprised if you don't go 4-2. And the Yankees lately have been better at home than on the road. But I digress to go back to Rodon. Likely you'll see him for that Baltimore series when they come back to the stadium, and that'll be really, really, really good. And, some of the guys in the rotation have kind of done the job. Look, we're going to talk about Clark Schmidt. Clark Schmidt has really turned his season around and has really given the Yankees chances to win. Sevy, this was a big-time bounce back for Sevy as well, so that was good. And then whenever it's been Brito or Vasquez lately, that's been pretty productive. So, the rotation, it's not pretty. When Nestor was healthy, it wasn't all that good. And I'd say there's been more negatives than positives, minus Cole. But that bullpen has just been mostly really, really good. And Michael King, the struggles continued, although he got a big save to finish off this series. So even sort of the one clear negative in the bullpen lately, was able to end on a high note. And that's kind of what I take from this series, is that there's a lot of negative vibes around the team, and deservedly so. Again, this offense is historically bad. And the Gleyber Torres mental mistakes continue. It's alarming. As bad as we know he can be, it's just crazy how every series there's something fucked up that happens. And, Josh Donaldson, there's a story there where he did not start any of the 3 games in this series. And, what will his role be going forward? I think in part, and it hasn't been talked about, it almost feels like it's becoming like a Joey Gallo, Aaron Hicks situation where you kind of don't want to play Donaldson at home if you can avoid it. Now, the series is over, you go to Oakland where Josh Donaldson came up as an Oakland A. maybe it gets him going, and hopefully this road trip, he gets into a better place for when they come back home. Again, it's probably a myriad of things, and maybe that's down the list, but it made me wonder just because it was surprising, and he had good career numbers off of Eovaldi. Now, LeMahieu has had limited time lately. I was surprised to see LeMahieu out of the lineup in Game 2 of this series, but he would play in Game 3. But yeah, so the Josh Donaldson situation, like the fans have basically fully turned against him. And again, I don't blame him. I get it. I totally do. But that's a story to definitely continue to watch, because I think that there's a world that exists where Josh Donaldson does not finish the season with the Yankees. Like, if the struggles continue, they might part ways. I don't think we're there yet. I will continue to say I don't think we're there yet. So let's talk about this series. Texas Rangers, New York Yankees, and the pitching matchup for Game 1 was Dane Dunning against Clarke Schmidt. And Dane Dunning has basically filled in for Jacob deGrom and done a great job, and that was the same thing today. He's not a pitcher that gets a lot of strikeouts, but hey, 7 innings, 2 runs for Dane Dunning, and actually going into the 8th, he'd only allowed 1. So this game, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, besides Michael King, Kiner-Falefa is kind of the GOAT. And the ironic thing is that Kiner-Falefa had 2 hits. Now, I was actually at this game. This was the first game that I went to this season. And, the game itself was, I definitely wouldn't call it entertaining, but it was close. Came down to the wire. And Kiner-Falefa, had a couple of hits, but against his former team. Now, remember, the night before, in a losing, embarrassing effort, he had that strikeout as the pitcher, and he hit a home run in the same inning. So, he was kind of the one feel-good story of that game. Now, this one, a couple of things happened, which we'll get into, and one of it was that he was called safe at second and just thought he was out. He actually was out, and if Texas challenged it, they probably would have called him out, but the umpire called him safe, and Kiner-Falefa just starts, walking back to the dugout. Marcus Semien tags him out. I've never seen anything like that in my life. And so you got to just stay there. Whether you think you're out, whether you hear it, if you're called, you just got to stay there until you know for sure. And so that was a brain dead play. And then he makes a mistake as well in center field. And again, his defense in center field has been pretty good, but he makes a mistake out there that cost the Yanks a run early, and you could argue that might have cost him the game. But the big issue is the offense. That's the overwhelming issue. And let's talk about this game. Like I said, Dunning versus Schmidt. And Clarke Schmidt has, really done a good job. Schmidt in this game, he doesn't necessarily get you too deep, 5 1/3 in this game, with 6 hits allowed, no earned runs, right? Because you got the kind of left era. And only 1 walk. So, the control has been better. There was a hit by pitch. But just overall, Schmidt really, ever since May, really, April was a disaster. And I guess, really, yeah, ever since May, I'm not sure the exact date, but yeah, last 7-8 outings have been really, really solid for Clarke Schmidt. And that's good as a younger pitcher, a younger starting pitcher in the major leagues. This is his first real opportunity. He's starting to figure things out, and that's good to see. And it's funny, you look at the pecking order, and it's Domingo Germán, Schmidt has kind of surpassed him at the present moment. And, we'll see, what happens when Rodon returns, when Cortez returns, who's the one that is taken out of the rotation. And that'll be an interesting debate when we get there. But in the second, the Yankees do take the lead. And a player that seems to be turning it around a little bit is Anthony Rizzo. And Rizzo in the second is hit by a pitch, and that's common for him. And then DJ LeMahieu doubles. And I liked what I saw from DJ this series. He didn't play the second game, but in games 1 and 3, signs of maybe breaking out of it, right? So actually besides Donaldson, Stanton, who had a rough series, even by the end, had a big RBI single. So maybe there's room for optimism with Rizzo, with LeMahieu, and with Stanton. Again, I'm still holding my breath. Not so much with Rizzo. I think Rizzo, he'll be okay. I think there's more concerns with LeMahieu and Stanton. LeMahieu more on a career level, Stanton more on a here and now, coming off an injury standpoint. But Kiner-Falefa continuing kind of his bad game, even though he had the 2 hits, He does ground out, and so there's no advance. It's second and third, 1 out. And Billy McKinney, who unfortunately in Game 3, his streak of reaching base since he was called up did end in Game 3. But a productive out here. It was hit softly, so we got a little lucky, but it's an RBI granted for McKinney. Rizzo scores, and the Yankees take a 1-0 lead. In the fourth, it's a 2-out rally, which is unfortunate, and it's Ezekiel Duran with an infield single. And then Leody Taveras gets a single that dunks in. Kiner-Falefa was playing very deep in center field, very deep. And so he's running in, and either he's got to commit to try to catch that or just stay back. He got caught in between, and so the ball actually goes by him, and it allows Duran to score. So, bad job by IKF. That ties it up at 1. And then it was just all pitching. And in the fifth was that play where Kiner-Falefa was caught stealing. Again, unacceptable. Even if it was still going to be out, he can't do that. And then Jimmy Cordero comes on. Jimmy Cordero has done a pretty good job. He's someone that I don't necessarily trust in high leverage spots. Although I guess to be fair to that, today there was good, and then Nick Ramirez had to clean up his mess. So with Cordero, but overall, again, as a depth reliever in this bullpen, it's a pretty good option to have. His stats are good. And so Duran gets the final 2 outs of the 6th inning. And in the 7th, Wandy Peralta comes on. And for Wandy, it's been a struggle. Certainly more so in Game 2 than Game 1. Game 1 was solid, and it helped that he got a big pickoff. After a Seager walk, he picks Seager off, and so he pitches a scoreless inning. So let's jump to the 8th. Clay Holmes finally gives up a run. And it wasn't like wild Clay Holmes. It was a couple of hits. It was a 1-out double to Josh Young, and then a 2-out RBI single through the hole between short and third for Mitch Garver. Gives the Texans a 2-1 lead, but the Yankees fight back, and they tie it up in the bottom of the 8th. Kiner-Falefa with a single, then Billy McKinney continuing to be productive, gets a single, makes it first and third, no out. And then I would say some smart managing by Aaron Boone here. I'll give him credit where he actually has Cabrera up as a pinch hitter, which then forces the hand of Boschee to take out Dunning and bring in the lefty John King. And then the Yankees, they had a choice. Now, obviously, you're going to take Cabrera out at that point, and they had a choice of Donaldson, Bader, or Higgy, and they go with Higgy, and I kind of understand why. Now, if it didn't work out, I probably would have been critical of it, just because Bader is your most trusted guy, but in the situation it was, they go with Higgy, and, kind of catcher for catcher, and in a couple spots up, from there, they went with Bader for Bowers. So it all kind of worked out, and Higgy does get a sac fly. Long story short of all that, the job is basically done, and McKinney tags and heads up base running, goes to second. Now, I guess there was a little bit of a risk there. If McKinney's tagged out before Kiner-Falefa score, that would have been a disaster, but it works out. Unfortunately, then Volpe strikes out looking, and for Volpe, the strikeouts are still there in big spots, but again, in keeping with the theme, it all ends well because Volpe had a key double to start the key rally in the 8th today, but Volpe strikes out there, and then Bader, in what I viewed as kind of the biggest chance to win, he lines out to center. That was the chance, the best chance for the Yankees to win, but unfortunately it's hit right at the center fielder. In the 9th inning, Tommy Kahnle comes on, and Tommy Kahnle has been just great in his return as a Yankee. I believe that he should continue to be thrust into big situations. This is a big one here. And see, that's the unfortunate thing, is if you could have had a lead going to the 9th, that would have been nice. But it's tied, and Kahnle pitches not a 1-2-3 inning. There was a 2-out double by Corey Seager, but then he strikes out Nate Lowe to end that inning. Joe Barlow pitches the bottom of the 9th, and there's a 2-out single by Rizzo, but then LeMahieu pops out. So we're going extra innings, and Michael King, the struggles continue as he allows a 2-run homer to Adolis Garcia, makes it 4-2. You can't do that. You can allow the 1 run that's on second and still survive, but the way this Yankee offense is going, that 2-run homer, you could feel it, that it was probably going to be over at that point. He gets the last 3 outs of that inning. And so Texas Ranger closer Will Smith comes on, the lefty. Kiner-Falefa lines out to center, and then they actually pinch hit Donaldson for McKinney. Now, I get it because of the fact that Smith's a lefty, but it's a tough look because McKinney's been your hottest hitter. Donaldson comes to the plate, and he strikes out, and the fans boo him off the field. And Stanton heard the boo birds in this game as well. And then Higgy pops out to end it. So a tough loss. Could have went either way. Some mistakes. And, again, the offense was not good. Michael King gives up a homer to Garcia. Extra innings, and the Yankees lose it. And so now we go into game 2. And this is where, before the game, you find out about Judge. So really, the energy is at an all-time low. But the Yankees, they find a way. And they win these next 2 games. So it's Severino versus John Gray. John Gray pitched well, made one mistake to Billy McKinney, but Severino didn't make any key mistakes. Although in the first, he gets into some trouble, but Jake Bauers makes a good defensive play. So Severino kind of struggling to get out of the inning. It's actually a 2-out single with first and second for Josh Young, but Bauers throws out Nate Lowe at the plate. Perfect throw, easy tag by Higgy. And so that was important. You look back on that, that was a big key out. And so Jake Bauers, who I've been critical of defensively, you haven't noticed as many mistakes lately, and he shows off a pretty good arm there. And so it remains scoreless. In the bottom of the 4th is where the Yankees take the lead. It's that Billy McKinney guy. He homers. It's his 4th homer of the season, makes it 1-0 Yankees, and that great story continues, and it'll be interesting. Now he'll go back to Oakland, where he came up in the Oakland system, and actually spent some time with the Oakland A's last year. So, he'll be back in Oakland. But anyway, the Yankees make it 1-0. And Sevy continues to put up zeros. And for Severino, he ends up going 6 scoreless. That is a good job by him. And I hope that he can continue to, to provide this sort of production. Now, let's remember last year, Severino, this is a better Texas team, but Sevy was throwing a no-hitter last year. Late, it was the last series of the season where Judge homered to break the record. Sevy, so, maybe it's just a good matchup against the Texas Rangers, but still, give him credit. In the 7th, Tommy Kahnle comes on and goes 1-2-3. Again, Kahnle continuing to do well. And then in the 8th, Wandy comes on. And for Wandy, it's been a struggle. So it's funny, King and Peralta were, for a long time, the 2 most trusted guys out of the pen. But lately, it's been a little sketchy. He gives up a single to Simeon, a single to Seager, and then luckily he strikes out Nate Lowe. It was a full count. Honestly, I thought it was a ball, and that was a huge, huge call by the ump. And that was Wandy's first strikeout since May. He had gone to that point 6 innings and about 9 or 10 appearances with no strikeouts, and it was kind of a lucky one, but that was big. And then Clay Holmes comes on and does the job. So, gives up the run the night before, but here gets Garcia to ground out and then Young to strike out, and so the Yankees are up 1-0, and then Ron Marinaccio pitches the 9th. Now, I was hoping Holmes would finish it up, but he doesn't. And Marinaccio, who, even though the numbers have been good lately, I just don't really trust Ron in this type of situation, and it started out pretty ugly. Jonah Heim single, Mitch Garver walk, and then Ezekiel Duran, the former Yankee prospect, he is able to strike Duran out, which was really important. And, it was potential to go off the rails, but he strikes out Duran, he strikes out Tavares, and then he gets Marcus Semien to pop out. So great job by Ron Marinaccio to, stick with it and earn the save, and the Yankees win it 1-0. Pitching won it for them and a homer by Billy McKinney. So now it's the rubber match. Nate Eovaldi, former Yankee, versus Garrett Cole. This is actually a rematch of the unfortunate 2021 wildcard game versus the Red Sox. And Yankees have seen plenty of Nate Eovaldi, whether it be with Boston or even with Texas earlier in the season. He threw a complete game. I can't remember if it was a shutout, but it might have been. It was a complete game. He went 9 innings. And, so Eovaldi, I wouldn't say that he's always had success versus the Yankees, but but he has as well. And probably more good than bad. And for Eovaldi in this one, he was okay. He was pretty good, but he didn't give him the depth, the length that they were probably hoping for. And Texas jumps out to early lead. Again, Garrett Cole didn't really have it in this one. The strikeouts were there, but a lot of hits, and he just wasn't really sharp. And he's entitled to that. He's been pretty good lately. So the Texas Rangers score in the first inning. It's right away. Semien double, Seager single. I would have probably pitched a little bit more carefully to Seager with the base open, but either way, Seager with an RBI single gives the Texas Rangers a 1-0 lead. Then Bottom of the first, Gleyber Torres with the leadoff double, and then here is the fuck up by Gleyber, where he did the same thing in Seattle, where he was hoping that the ball was going to drop into the outfield, but Simi makes a nice play. It wasn't like an overly spectacular play, and so Torres is doubled off second. Just a stupid play. He does it all the time, and at some point you got to bench him. Aaron Boone has got to hold him accountable. I'm sorry, it's got to happen. Because how is it going to stop? Because he knows he can keep on pulling the shit, and all right, like nothing's going to happen, nothing bad's going to happen. So again, it's unacceptable, and so that kills any potential chance that they were going to score in that inning. In the second, the struggles for Cole continues. Jonah Heim homers, and then you get a one-out double by Ezekiel Duran, and then a double by Leody Taveras. So the bottom of the Texas order getting it done, and it gives the Rangers a 3-0 lead. To the bottom of the second we go, and the Yankees are able, and that's the good thing, is that they were able to kind of fight back quickly. Giancarlo Stanton leadoff walk, Jake Bauers double, and then a 2-run double by DJ LeMahieu. Opposite field, kind of a vintage DJ hit, makes it 3-2. McKinney with a productive out to get DJ over to third, a ground out, but then Volpe strikes out. That's the frustration, is Volpe's trying to hit a home run. Just keep it simple there. You're just, a sac fly works. A ground out potentially works, but he strikes out, and eventually, and the inning would end. The Yankees could have tied it up. They stay down 3-2. Cole, let's jump to the fifth. Cole gets into some trouble. They get him out of there, and Jimmy Cordero finishes the inning. He gets the ground out of Jonah Heim. That was big. Then in the sixth, Cordero, a couple of quick outs, but then he gets into some trouble. And with 2 outs, first and second, Nick Ramirez with a big strikeout of Corey Seager. Nick Ramirez, an unsung hero in this game. Ramirez, who, I thought he'd really be a guy that would be sort of bottom of the bullpen, and he is. But, he's coming to some spots and come through. Now, there's been times when he hasn't, but, Ramirez has been better than I would have thought. It'll be interesting to see what move the Yankees make. Ian Hamilton will return from the IL, which will be nice. He's been out for about a month or so, and he's going to return probably in the Oakland series. What do the Yankees do? Now, I could see them possibly, although I don't know if you can even do it now that I think about it, because there's not going to be off days. I was going to say, maybe you have, I think Brito is due to start on Tuesday. Maybe you have him start Tuesday, and then you activate Hamilton Wednesday and send Brito down. I don't know if they'll do that, though, but if you don't do that, who's the one that goes, right? Would it be Nick Ramirez? Would it be Albert Abreu? Somewhat of a tough decision that they have to make. We'll see what happens. So Ramirez goes 1-2-3 in the seventh. In the eighth, Marinaccio comes on. He does give up a 2-out double to Duran, but then he gets Taveras, Duran out, so Marinaccio keeps it at 1. And then the Yankees get it done at the bottom of the eighth. Lefty John King comes on, and Volpe gets a leadoff double. Then Trevino, who was unsuccessful in trying to get the sacrifice bunts. He does, however, continue the at-bat and get an infield single. Then Gleyber doesn't really make up for his bad mental error in the first inning, as he flies out to right, no advance. So then Texas brings on right-hander Yerry Rodriguez, and Harrison Bader comes up big with a 2-run double. Bader is one of those guys that if you need a big hit, he is up there on this team as someone you'd want up there. Honestly, he's no worse than third or fourth, and that's, maybe second or third in terms of guys that you want up. If you need a big hit late in the game, Bader, 2-run double. Oswaldo Cabrera did pinch run for Trevino, which was a good move, and the Yankees take a 4-3 lead. They intentionally walk Rizzo, and Giancarlo Stanton, I hope this gets him going with a big RBI single to give Michael King some breathing room in the ninth, gives the Yankees a 5-3 lead. Like I said, King comes on to close it out. He does give up a 2-out single to Nate Lowe, but he strikes out Adolis Garcia. So hopefully this is a springboard series where a lot of things that you were hoping to see, you kind of did. Again, the offense, to me, that's still going to be a major problem, but hopefully some of these guys can get going. So a big Yankee win, a big Yankee series win, and so they improve to 43-35. They are still in one of the wild card spots, but obviously a ways to go, and those standings are very close anyway. So let's look ahead to Yankees Oakland. Let's see if there's any pitching matchups available. Johnny Brito is going to look to continue what he did. Now, Brito actually did face Oakland earlier in the season, and It was a bit of a struggle for Brito. It wasn't terrible, but if I remember correctly, I didn't feel great about it. But anyway, Brito versus Blackburn for Oakland. Paul Blackburn, who was out for a while this year. He's made 5 starts, and the numbers aren't great, but he's had some success in the past. So Brito versus Blackburn. Then it'll be Herman versus J.P. Sears. So J.P. Sears, the former Yankee who was involved in that Frankie Montas trade. I like J.P. Sears. If he can limit the home run ball, I think he can be a pretty good pitcher in this league. And this will be the first left-handed starter the Yankees have faced in a long time. In this Texas series, we thought that Andrew Heaney might start, but they went with Evaldi. So the Yankees have not faced a left-handed starter in a long, long time, dating back maybe to Clayton Kershaw. Like, it's been weeks since Aaron Judge has been out. So this will be the first time that happens, and Herman will look to hopefully get better because the last 2 starts were rough. So that's Herman versus Sears. And then game 3 will be Clarke Schmidt, and Oakland has not announced the starter yet. So Clarke Schmidt, who he also faced Oakland early in the season, if memory serves correct. And I think that one went pretty well. I think, and at that time, Clarke Schmidt wasn't really pitching well, but I think that one was good. So anyway, Yankees, Oakland. Oakland is 20-60. 20-60, yeah. So Yankees gotta win 2 out of 3. I'm not looking for the sweep. Like, it's, again, like Oakland's, it's weird things happen at the Coliseum there. And so you can't lose it. Just win 2 out of 3. And that's just it. I think some are going to expect a sweep or hope for a sweep. I think with the way the Yankees are, without Judge, just be happy with 2 out of 3. And as I say that, I'm sure I'll come back and say, yeah, like they'll win 2 out of 3, and I'll say, yeah, like I'm pissed it wasn't a sweep. But I digress. And then the Yankees will face the St. Louis Cardinals. Please subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. We will continue to talk Yankee baseball. The trade deadline is going to be, still a ways away, but, about a month out. At the end of July, and we'll see what activity the Yankees provide this year. I feel like they might be less active than fans want, but we'll see what they do. Again, Yankees with a successful homestand. They take 2 out of 3 from the Seattle Mariners. They take 2 out of 3 from the Texas Rangers. Now they head out west to take on the lowly Oakland A's.